Do you find that your notes that use the half hole on the bassoon tend to sound like this? If that's the case, it's a super common issue that bassoonists deal with, and I want to teach you the proper way to use half holes, which will fix that issue as you practice them. My name is Dr. Natalie Law, and I'm a professional bassoonist and bassoon teacher, and I love helping people learn how to play the bassoon, improve their skills, and feel confident playing this instrument. So if that's a topic of interest to you, make sure you're subscribed down below, give me a thumbs up, and comment any questions or your thoughts down in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you. Let me take a second to explain exactly what I mean by half holes in case you're newer to the bassoon or this is a newer topic to you. On the bassoon, there are certain notes that you have to use a half hole on, and the half hole is always your index finger in your left hand. This finger right here is the finger that opens and closes the half hole. It's helpful to remember that the three main notes that use a half hole on the bassoon are the three G's: G natural, G sharp or A flat, and G flat or F sharp. So the three G's are the notes that always need a half hole in certain registers of the bassoon. If you don't use the half hole, what happens is that either the note doesn't speak clearly, you get kind of that croaky, muffled sound, or it wants to drop down to the lower octave. If that sound is happening to you when you're playing, or if your half hole notes just aren't coming out cleanly, it's usually one of two issues. Either you're not opening the tone hole quickly enough, or you're not opening it enough or at the right time. The half hole has to be open the instant that the note speaks so that it has any chance of speaking clearly. You have to think that, the air is traveling through the reed and through the bocal, and then it's traveling down the wing joint, and then it hits this first tone hole. And so by the time the air travels down that tube, it needs to be able to escape out of this first tone hole in order to be effective at all. Otherwise, you're not going to get a clear sound. So some typical issues that happen when people are first learning to use half hole, or they're not using half hole as efficiently as possible, is they're tending to lift their finger to open the half hole, or they're tending to slide, like just slide up and down half hole, but it's really more of a roll. You want to use a roll on the half hole. You can see where on my finger I do that first tone hole. I need to be able to open and close that tone hole. So I need to be able to do that rocking motion, and having it sort of on the side of my index finger is helpful for that. Now, depending on the size of your hands, where you place your finger on your tone hole may be a little bit different. I have a little bit smaller hands, and so that's just where my hands end up being. So you want to do that rolling motion, and you want to obviously have the hole open right when you play the note. Now, there is some nuance in the amount of half hole to open up. If you're playing G, that's about half open. About half the tone hole is open. If you're playing G sharp or A flat, only about a quarter of the hole is open. If you're playing F sharp or G flat, 3/4 of the hole is open. So there's some shading of how much the hole should be open. And you'll find that, for example, on the G sharp or A flat, that if you open the hole too much, the note will squawk at you. That's the sound I get when I open the hole too much for the A flat. And if you close the hole too much on, say, the F sharp, that's even with the tone hole open a little bit. It's still wanting to drop down to the lower octave, and even when it's not dropping down to the lower octave, the note is still kind of muffled or covered, like it's not speaking as clearly. Here's with the right amount of half hole, 3/4 open. So there's different shadings of the half hole that you have to use. And always, always, always make sure you're doing that rolling motion and not sliding or lifting your first finger. Half hole notes can be tricky because, especially in the range where it's near the top of the bass clef staff, if you're going up in the bass clef staff and you're in the middle of the bass clef staff and then going up towards the half hole notes, you're only using a few fingers in your left hand, and then all of a sudden you start having to use both your hands on those half whole notes. And so another issue that comes up that's not directly related to half whole is that transition point from a note that uses few fingers to one of the half whole notes that uses most of the fingers. So a really common issue is F to G. It's really common for not all of our fingers, particularly our ring fingers, tend to be the slowest fingers. So check your ring fingers. So when I'm not getting a clean sound, it means that I am opening the half hole, I know that, but it's my other fingers that aren't coming down all at the exact same time. So check your other fingers as well, especially when you're going from very different fingerings to those half hole notes. That's another really common issue. And finally, when we're talking about making our half whole notes sound better, in addition to making them sound clearer, cleaner, better response, the F sharp and the G in particular tend to be really sharp on the bassoon, and they have sort of the F sharp in particular has more of a naturally strident tone or brighter tone, and so you have to work harder to kind of rein that tone in, especially if you're playing a scale. So if you're playing, say, C major, it's really easy for that G to stick out. But you want the whole scale to sound even tone, even though the fingerings are changing rapidly. That might mean kind of brightening up or making louder the notes with only a few fingers, C, D, E, F. And that means sort of mellowing out the G that tends to stick out in order to make the tone fit in that context. The G, going back to the transition from F to G or E to F sharp or whatever it may be, when we're doing those transitions, you just have to know that those notes, those half whole notes, take a little bit, they're more resistant. So you have to have good air to push through. Know that they're more resistant before you get to them, and then that'll help you control them a little bit better. They feel different, and so it takes time to get the tone the same from other notes to the half whole notes. So I hope this video was helpful for you in learning how to actually play notes with a half whole, how to make them sound better, get better response, and just make them not stick out like a laser beam when you're playing. And if it was helpful, if you learned something from this video, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let me know down in the comments any questions or just general thoughts that you have about playing with half holes or other topics on the bassoon. I'd love to hear from you.